Hi, my name is Eunji from KAIST. Today I will talk about this topic, Secrets of Gosu, Understanding Physical Combat Skills of Professional Players in First-Person Shooters. The first-person shooter, called FPS, requires very fast reaction time to check the opponent's position, and the user has to aim opponent accurately using their mouse. Like this, the individual's combat skills has a very huge influence on the win or loss of the game. And as you know, professional players dominate the combat skills of normal players. We call them Gosu, not only professional players, but who has a much high performance. Then, how and why the Gosu perform better than the other players? Many gamers have wanted to play well, and that is why the gamers have been actively discussed in the online communities or YouTube about some tips for high performance. Even though these tips are not scientifically proved, many gamers have believed and followed the tips. In the research field, many previous studies have analyzed FPS and gamers from diverse perspectives. But many research questions were different from what actual gamers want to know. So in this study, as researchers and passionate gamers, we aimed to verify the conjectures from the online communities and analyze what makes the difference in the player's combat skill. We conducted the research in the following order. First, we organized the tips to verify. We selected conjectures from sources such as the official blogs of companies developing FPS-related software and YouTube videos with at least 100,000 to over 2 million views. We organized them into 4 categories: aiming, character movement, physical skills, and device and settings. Then we listed up the 15 performance metrics that can evaluate quantitatively for each tip. For example, we measure the angular velocity of mouse to find out how fast players snap their wrist when performing the flicking aim. And we measure the rotation ratio of elbow and wrist to verify the conjecture. Most professional players use arm aiming rather than wrist aiming. In order to collect data to measure metrics, we developed a gameplay logging system with 6 types of behavioral sensors and in-game data logger system. We used 8 motion capture cameras, eye tracker, EMG sensors, pulse sensor, keyboard, and a dual sensor mouse. For the in-game data, we load 2 kinds of data: player data such as enemy skeletal position, and game events data such as player death or weapon fire events. For the user study, we recruited participants into 2 groups: 8 professional FPS players and 8 normal players who had sufficient FPS experience. We selected the famous FPS game, CSGO, for the study and used a customized map for the one-on-one match, which is smaller than normal maps. Each participant played a one-on-one match for 30 minutes. As a result, we collected about 7 gigabytes of data and high-resolution gameplay video recordings. In the descriptive statistic analysis, professionals showed more effective shots per minute and shorter reaction time. Also, 6 of 13 conjectures are verified. Among them, I picked some interesting points to introduce. Please refer to our paper for other detailed results and information. First, professional players were more familiar with their mouse sensitivity so that they showed less corrective movement just before the shooting. Also, professional players tended to use more elbows than the wrist during aiming, and the rotation ratio was higher than the amateurs. Lastly, professional players' sensitivity was low and they used a larger area of the mousepad. Through these results, we revealed 2 interesting points about the origin of the high performance of professional players. First, we inferred that the influence of game interface could affect the combat strategies. This is because professional players' mouse sensitivity was lower, so they had to move the mouse larger to move the same distance as the other player who used the high sensitivity. Second, we deduced that the high performance of professional players may be due to their innate cognitive ability, because professional players showed lower reaction time in our study. So this is end of our presentations, and thank you for listening.